Okay, today I would like to start our webinar with a question, or rather two questions. Why is there a Transkribus, and why do users want to use it? We all basically share a very similar interest into historical documents, which is accessing knowledge. On the one hand, you can access knowledge for your personal interest, for your academic research, or for your professional work in your institution. But you might also want to give others access to historical sources. And that is why we have a webinar today about publishing your documents with Transkribus Sites. So giving access to historical sources has become really easy with Transkribus Sites. And today we would like to walk you through setting up your first Transkribus site and working with Transkribus Sites. A very rough overview of today's webinar. I will first give you a brief introduction. Then my colleagues will walk you through setting up a Transkribus site, also the additional settings that you might want to have a look at. We will explore search and the explore page in sites, and finally we will also have a Q&A session. Have a look at your questions. Questions is also a good keyword. If you have any, please just use the chat here in Zoom. So we'll always also try to answer questions directly if they fit during the webinar. Otherwise, if they are left over at the end of the webinar, we will come back to them and then answer the questions if they are not have been answered before directly in the chat. And who's here with me today? First, here's Sarah from the user success team. So you might know her from working together in your organizational plans. She knows probably more about Transkribus than I do, as she uses it way more as one of our most advanced users of Transkribus, in-house users of Transkribus. Then we also have Helene here today with us, who's running our comms team and basically manages all those nice presentations that we can have a look at the webinars. So great to have you both here. And last but not least, it's me. I'm part of the board of directors here at Transkribus, and I'm basically managing operations and the product here at Transkribus. So let's have a very brief introduction about Transkribus Sites. What is Transkribus Sites? And then we can have a look at working with it. So as we have seen before, you might find yourself in a very similar situation. There's a lot of documents that you have available and you want to work with them. As you might have come across Transkribus, one of our main propositions as a tool is that you can train your own AI and also recognize those historical sources with it. But you can also use advanced editing with Transkribus and then edit those sources, correct them, and for instance, make an editorial version of those historical sources. Now, with Transkribus Sites, you also have the possibility to publish those sources and give the general public access to those sources, which might be a very interesting use case for many of you. So if you find yourself in Transkribus and have maybe some collections there, maybe they're a little bit fictional in this case, but you might have some letters about Adam and Eve and want to publish them online. And for Transkribus Sites, you can basically just head over to Transkribus Sites in Transkribus, set up your first Transkribus site and publish it there quite easily. Before, we had the predecessor, basically product here at Transkribus called Read and Search. We have some very successful read and searches. Here is an example of the Amsterdam City Archives. It's one of the largest read and searches that we have here at Transkribus. It's about, I think, 3 or 4 million pages of historical sources that are searchable in the full text. So basically, the Amsterdam City Archives are really pioneering this with one of the very first read and searches here at Transkribus. And there were also some very interesting findings that were possible thanks to those historical sources, like, for instance, a lost Rembrandt painting that was discovered thanks to those sources. Before, it was a very cumbersome process in terms of setting up these instances. We basically had a custom way of setting up every single read and search instance. And then we have seen that basically there is a need for a very simple publishing solution where users are able to publish their historical sources with Transkribus. And that led to the development of Transkribus Sites. As you might have already come across, this is roughly how the interface for Transkribus Sites looks like. You have an editor where you can modify the appearance of your Transkribus site and also adjust some settings about what content will be displayed and how it can be searched in Transkribus. And finally, it will end up looking something like that, which is a public website that you can then share with your colleagues, friends, and anyone else that's interested in that historical project that you're working on, and make the historical sources searchable. What are the main features? So you can very easily, as mentioned already, share your material. You have a side-by-side view, just like in Transkribus, which is often very handy, as many historical scripts are not that readable for our society anymore. So if you're not a trained professional, you might struggle reading those historical scripts. With a side-by-side view, you can have a look at the original source and then the transcribed text, and make sense out of it and just dive into those historical stories that are covered in it. And there's also enhanced search capabilities, so you can modify searches and also narrow them down to really find what you're looking for in sometimes the vast plethora of documents that might be in a Transkribus site. Here you just see some screenshots about how it can look like. You can also use text, for instance. Those yellow boxes on the right side are basically annotated parts of the text that you can also showcase with Transkribus Sites. But now let's have a practical look at things. And now I will hand over to my colleague. So take it away.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to share my screen. All right, you should see my screen. Okay, perfect. Let's dive right away into the platform. So here, this is the Transkribus page. And what we are going to work here under the Sites tab. And here you have the Transkribus site that you have already created, but now we are going to start a new Transkribus site, and you will see that it's very easy to create a Transkribus site. You click here, create new site. You need to add a project title. This is up to you how you want to name your Transkribus site. Now you're going to name it Marjorie Fleming's Diary, because we are using this diary as an example. And here you can customize your URL. Remember that the customized part will be added to this URL, so you cannot customize the entire URL, but just the last part. And for example, planning diary. If you add a space as Transkribus will let you know that this is not a valid custom URL, so you need to write the name without spacing, or add a dash or a number. It's this, and it should be unique. Then you can select the collection that you want to show on your site. You can show one collection or multiple collections, and then Helena will also show you how to add a multiple collection to your site. But for now, we are just going to select one collection, this one that we have already prepared with our documents. You can continue working on the Transkribus collection even after the creation and publication of this Transkribus site. So the great advantage is that you don't need to download images and documents and upload them to another platform, but your collection is linked to your Transkribus site and is continuously updated. So if you add a new document or you edit a transcription within Transkribus, in a few minutes, Transkribus site will be synchronized, and the new document or the updated transcription will appear in your site too. And we just click to create site, and we have our new and fresh Transkribus site. The first thing to to edit is the home page. So this is how your page will look like to have access the site once it's published. So here, as you can see, it's private. And if you want to publish it, you have to click here. But for now, it is private and only you can access it. Here you have all the settings that you can modify the editor. And here you have a preview of the changes. So if I go here and I add something that it's updated here simultaneously. And if you want, you can also click here to preview how it's look like in the end. And you click there the setting symbols to go back. Here it's your title, which by default is the same of given to the project, but you can always update it at any time. And here we are going to add a description, brief description of your Transkribus site, something that should engage the user of your site and encourage them to search through your site. So in this case, we are just explaining who this author is, and people can then search within it. And you can also edit the font, the font, the size, and some other format elements. And you can add an image as the background. You can customize it. So you go here to upload image, and you are asked to upload the image that you want. Just use this one, which is the cover of this diary. And you see now we have, and maybe this is not the best image we have our background image and our measure refilling diary description. And we need to click on save to save our edits. This is the first access point for your Transkribus site. And here people can just search through the documents in your collection. But you can also enhance their experience. So they can also explore your collection. So if they don't know what they're looking for, or if they want to read all the pages and they're not searching for a specific term. And we go here under Explore. As before, here on the right, you have the preview of Transkribus site, and on the left, you can edit the settings on this page. And as you can see, there are different fields that you can edit in the different type of pages. In the Explore page, what you can enable is, so by default, all the documents will be shown here as the first tab in the Explore page. In this document, we have 4 documents. In this collection, we have 4 documents, but if you add another collection, the other documents will be listed here in alphabetical order. To enhance the browsing of your documents, what you can also add is the Browse Tags option. And when you enable it, that here, the Tags tab appears. And enable it, it means that people can also browse on your tags. And you can also define which tags you want to make them browse. For instance, maybe comments is not that relevant. Those tags have been added in the Transkribus collection. They are just regular textual tags. When we go into Transkribus, let me show you an example. Like there are textual tags like that. Here we have the textual tag place, and here the textual tag person. And those tags are visible. You can make them visible in a Transkribus site, and you can also decide which one you want to make visible. So, for example, I want just to show the person tag, the place tag, and the data, because the other tags aren't relevant for my work. And you see here, now I'm just showing those tags, and then people can click there to place. They will see all the tags, and they can also search through the tags. So we are here. I can access the pages where London has been tagged as a place name. And this redirects me to the page where London appears. Is here. You can see here the London tagged. Now let's go back to the Explore page. We have shown how to enable text browsing, and it's also possible to to enable the hierarchy tab. In this way, you can show the position of the document inside the archive or the collection. So, for example, just use a place name here. We have this archive, and inside this archive, we have one collection. This collection is divided by years, and inside each year, we have our documents. How to make this possible? At the moment, Transkribus doesn't support the subfolders. So you just, as you probably know, there are just collections and documents. But you can work with the metadata to show the hierarchy of your documents. So to obtain this result and show you, for example, where the document is in the archive and within which collection or which shelf mark it has, you need to work with metadata. And to do that, you don't need to do that inside the Transkribus expert, but it's something that you do in Transkribus. So when you're here, this is our document. You click on Edit Metadata, and here on the hierarchy, you can create the hierarchy that you want, splitting every level with a slash. For example, here I have archive/collection/18.3. And when I go to another document in this same collection, I have the same hierarchy or a different year, but you can customize it as you prefer. And this is how, at the moment, hierarchy works with Transkribus. So when you have this metadata fill in, you can also show the structure of your archive or collection in Transkribus site by enabling this option here, hierarchy. And the last thing it's searching inside your documents. And when you're here, then in the Explore page, then people can just open the documents and read through the document and move from one page to another. While with the search option, they can search inside your documents. The only feature that is available here is the filter. So you can make your user filter the search result by the various metadata field in the document, which are these ones: genre, script, author, external, the hierarchy, writer, collection. For example, I want to make my documents, filter the documents by author and hierarchy. I have to save it. So when my user will search for a term, for example, heat, and you will see here, they will see all the results in my documents. And by clicking on advanced filters, they can change the fastest search level. So how accurate this search is, if it's search for an exact match, it means it search just words written as heat, or if the fastest search is enabled, it's also looking for words that deviates for one or two characters from the search term. And if you enable the fastest search, it is more likely that you will find relevant words. But yeah, what I wanted to show here is that I can also filter here by author, for example. I want to see where the word heat appears in Jane Austen documents. That is just an example. And here you can also filter by hierarchy and by the order metadata. As I said, the metadata needs to be added here in Transkribus, in the metadata of the document, not in Transkribus site. What you can make in Transkribus site is to make them visible or enable them as filters. And now we'll leave the floor to Helene, and she will explain you the next pages that you can customize.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, so now we'll talk a bit more about how you can add background information to your Transkribus sites and how you can customize it. So I'm now in the Transkribus sites that Sarah just created, and we'll have a look at the content pages. So the content pages, for example, here is our About page. And our content page, like the About page, can help add you a personal touch to your website. And here you can add more information about your story or the mission of your project. And this can help the visitors of your Transkribus site better understand the material and give a bit of background information. So here you can, again, change the heading. Let's call this about this project. We'll just leave it at that. You can also upload an image. So for example, here, since we're working on the diary of Marjorie Fleming, we'll add the cover of the book as an image. And as you can see here on the right, it immediately appears as a cover image. You can also change the sections here. Let's see, for example, I want to, here I click on edit, and I want to add, let's say, about Marjorie, a short text about the diaries and what this project is about. I have a paragraph here ready that I can just copy and paste in here, and you can see the changes immediately appear here on the side. Maybe I also want to write something about the team, project team, and add a small paragraph here. And let's copy that in. And again, you can see the text appears here. You can also edit the text. So let's say I want to highlight something like Transkribus. I can make it bold or change something to italic. And also can change the layout of where the image and the text is. So maybe let's switch this around because I want to have all the images on the left side. Let's say I want to upload an image of the team. You can do that, of course, as well. Let's drag and drop an example image here, submit, and the page is reloaded. And now we have also an image here. And if you want, you can also change the order of these sections and just drag and drop to switch them around. Let's maybe move on now to general settings because we're a bit short on time again. So to customize the page and edit some general settings, click on here, and now the side view opens. Here is what Sarah mentioned, where you can also change the project title and add more collections. So if you have been working on getting more documents translated and you want to add them as well, you can here select another selection. Let's add maybe more pages of the diary, and we can save that here as well. Here you can also add more translations of the page. So if, for example, I want to add a German version of this page, I can add German and set the translation here. So for example, I have the English words for each value here visible. And if I switch to German, I can see the values in that language. You can change them here, of course, as well. One thing that's also important to mention is that here you can enable or disable document download. So this means that the people who visit your page can or cannot download your documents. This you also have to consider in terms of privacy and the rights to the images or documents that you're using. And here you can also add an imprint. For legal reason, we do recommend this as well. And again, all changes that you make, you should save. Here you can also customize your Transkribus sites. You can change the image, the primary logo, and customize the colors of the page. And one thing that's also really nice is that you can add more content pages. So for example, I mentioned before the About page, but if you want to separate the page of explaining about your team and explaining about the project, you can add an additional page and have one, maybe let's call this just generally about, and then we'll call this about the project, and this team. I need to delete this. and save. Let's save this. And now we can see, oh, I had a spelling mistake here, that we have two different pages about the project and about the team. Here we can again change the title and added this content page. What's here also really nice, what you can do, and I only found this out when preparing for this webinar. Sarah explained that to me, which just shows that she's really one of our Transkribus experts. When editing the sections in this field, you can not only change the layout of the image or text, you can also add a search form and connect the search form to a collection that you have added to the Transkribus sites. And this can be useful if you want to highlight or offer access to a particular collection among the collections that are published in Transkribus sites. As you can see here, once we have added this search form, it appears in our content page. I think this is it so far for me. Do we have questions in the chat about the content pages and general settings? Let me see. I don't think so. Florian, Sarah, am I missing something in the chat?
I think we're good. There's one question, but I still need to read it.
Sure.
No.
Yes, as always, just remember to click save so that none of the changes are lost. Or if you want to have a look at how the changes look in your Transkribus sites, you can click on preview and click around and see how it looks, what you've changed, and if you want to maybe change some settings, add pages, or work more on your Transkribus sites. All right, then I'll hand over to you, Flo.
Thanks a lot. Just share again. So yeah, we're back at our slides. Just very briefly to give you a impression of who's already using sites. You might have discovered some of those different groups of users already, but we have many archives that use Transkribus, for instance, in Switzerland, in Zurich, for instance, the White Register, as it calls, or a community or municipality of Schiedam in the Netherlands, and also the Swedish National Archive are already using Transkribus sites to showcase their collections. We also have many very interesting research projects from various different universities. I don't know all of them by heart because they're getting to be many sites available in Transkribus. Yeah, I encourage you to look them up as well. We also have magazines that have been published with Transkribus sites, or also just galleries, libraries, museums, and other collections. Also private one. There's also private individuals that have shared, collections of their ancestors, for instance, with Transkribus sites and made them available. In the longer run, we're also thinking about integrating all of them into a general platform where all sites could be connected. Of course, users would need to opt in and deliberately share their material with a larger search engine that might be integrated then. So we could have a kind of meta platform for Transkribus sites where all of these very nice projects could be searchable in one go, which might unlock, as we you like to use that word very much, a lot of different perspectives to history, and might be a very powerful search engine for historical collections around the globe, because we really have users around the globe here at Transkribus from very different countries that share a lot of perspectives to history and original sources, as you can share it with Transkribus sites. Yeah, here's just a reminder, explore them yourselves if you're interested, or set up your own Transkribus site. So we're already wrapping things up very quickly, and then we can also have a look at some questions. As always, Transkribus is your AI-powered ally. With Transkribus sites, we're at the very beginning. So as you might have seen, some features are still a little bit rough around the edges. Transkribus sites is now roughly 1 year old. We launched it about a year ago, have constantly been refining features around the last 12 months. There were no major big changes to Transkribus sites in the last 12 months, but we have taken note of many feature requests and many different feedbacks that we have received. And we will have a major rework, or basically major sprint, as we like to call it in our development area, where we'll focus on improving and bringing Transkribus Sites to the next step. That will likely take place in 2 to 3 months. So for the next 2 or 3 months, there's no major changes planned for Transkribus Sites, but we have really nice features planned that you might also be able to edit the content directly in Transkribus Sites. As we've seen before, you always need to jump back basically to your Transkribus collection to alter the data that is available in Transkribus Sites. Now with the new sprint that we have planned, or basically larger projects in Transkribus Sites that we've planned, we want to improve these things and also introduce a lot of other very nice features, because you can probably think of more different features than we can do. But if we think about representing time or displaying time, like a time axis where you want to show different historical eras and time periods where something happened, or maps where you could also map the locations of different documents, it might be very interesting to have such features in Transkribus Sites integrated. Plus, there might also be some improvements on how to display the sources, or basically the transcribed text, with, for instance, an overlay that we already have in Read and Search, for instance, that you cannot just have a view where you can have on the left side the image and on the right side the text, but also the text as an overlay, so that you can even better understand where does this text belong to, especially for names where the transcription might seem a little bit different sometimes. You could have a look at the historical or original sources like this, and also for more complex layouts like tabular data, when we think about registers or indexes where data has been written down in a more tabular form, then it comes quite handy when you can have an overlay. So all of these things are basically on the roadmap. We are currently scoping them, so understanding how do we build these features and what's actually needed, what problem do we actually solve with this. So very often it's hard to understand in first place, why does user or do users actually request something, and then we try to build a feature for it. So Transkribus Sites, as it's at the very beginning, if we compare it to Transkribus, is a little bit older than Transkribus Sites, being it 1 year old now. And we really want to improve this, and this will happen this year. We're very curious to think in those 12 months periods of time and to see what Transkribus Sites will look like in about 12 months. To come back, who's behind Transkribus, and many of those institutions already have a Transkribus site available. So we are a cooperative with more than 200 members. Many of you joining today are already members, so I'm basically telling you the same thing again. It's great to have so many members that are backing Transkribus, and also basically sharing that vision of unlocking those historical sources together. One question that came also up during the questions that we had asked for registration is, how is Transkribus Sites priced? We obviously also need to have a pricing plan in place to be able to support the development of it, which is quite cost intensive. If you think of multiple developers working on it and integrating those features, we need to have some sort of business model to support it. As you might know, we do not have any shareholders in the regular sense of the word, because owner or co-owner of Transkribus, as its cooperative member, does not get any shares paid out, but we really invest every single euro or dollar or penny into Transkribus. With Transkribus Sites, we have different plans starting. It's displaying. Okay, now it's displayed with those plans that are paid. So basically, Scholar team in the organization plan, they already include 1,000 pages on sites. So if you have a small project or private project, you can just get a Scholar plan and publish 1,000 sites easily. Plus, we have larger plans. If you have small edition, editorial or digital scholarly edition that you want to publish, it might work well with around 10,000 pages. And then we obviously have larger plans. As you've heard before, we also have plans that are in the millions of pages. If you're interested in the larger sites, we're always happy to talk to you, because there's no use case like the other. There's always some specifics to the data, and then we always try to find the best solution and make things work. So to reiterate, at the beginning, we've said that Transkribus is your powered ally, and we really want to be that. So we built the tools, and you work with the material. While text recognition, of course, is also super exciting here at Transkribus, especially building it, but that might not be the end of the story, because when it's really interesting to work with historical sources is when you search things and analyze things and try to make sense of those historical sources, which you can do much better with Transkribus Sites and let also others do. So with Transkribus Sites, we think that we fill a gap in that basically value chain of providing historical sources and unlocking historical sources. So to come back to the question that I raised at the beginning, so with Transkribus Sites, we try to answer this and make those sources available to the general public. And now we can already come to the very wrap up of this meeting. So as always, if you have any questions, we've tried to document all of the things that you've seen today, or at least most of the things. Maybe there are some missing, so we are always also happy if you point them out into our help center, so you can look them up there. And we also try to keep you updated about all the features that we built, not just Transkribus Sites, but also other ones here at Transkribus with webinars like today's one. We also have language-specific ones. The next one is already next week. On the 30th of January, we will have a Dutch webinar. We will have a baseline webinar where it's really about training baseline models, the nitty-gritty line model training, which might also be interesting for some of you. And then we're really happy about the very first product update webinar on the 18th of February. At the moment, we're have a lot of different pots on our stove. So there's a lot of soups cooking that we are really happy to publish soon. So we will introduce a lot of different changes to Transkribus in the next weeks. And we will walk you through those changes mid-February, the 18th. So if you're interested about all those new things that we've introduced, then just join us. We'll be happy to also answer your questions then. And now, talking about questions, we really can come to those questions. Are there any questions left from the chat that we might not have answered yet?
Yeah, there is one. Can I make a site that is shared privately only?
Okay, that's also a very common question. We might address this with the next larger project where we start working on Transkribus Site. At the moment, it's not possible, but we have a very common request, or many users request this, and we will likely, not to promise it, but we will likely work on this soon. So I would expect it to be available around maybe July, August, towards the second half of the year, that we will introduce this, where you can have a password protected, or maybe better authentication protected instance where you can add other Transkribus users and then let them access your Transkribus site privately without sharing it publicly. Word limit, there was one. There's a very interesting suggestion. So integration with other content management systems, that certainly is one very good suggestion. So we're not here to reinvent the wheel, because I think there's many other platforms that have done great into building those content management systems. For now, we really try to focus more on search and making sources available. We have that very basic, as we've shown, content pages that you can add. But if you want to have more elaborate pages, you can probably do many more interesting things with those content management systems, like WordPress, for instance. And it might also not be that hard to have let's say, WordPress plugin that you can have, where you can connect your Transkribus account and then have your documents searchable on your WordPress site. But that as well, as we have limited resources and try to do things lean here at Transkribus, so we basically don't have the possibility like other startups, but we're not a startup in the conventional sense, to have large amounts of money and then just invest it into product features, because building products is quite cost intensive if you want to do it on a professional level like we try to do here. So we will take note of this as well, but I cannot promise how fast we will be. sometimes, and that's what we've also learned, we're slower than we expect, and sometimes we're also faster. Let's see where we will end up. Okay, yeah. Project-based authority control. We do have some other projects relying on other authorities like geodata, as I was talking about maps before. So that might also be very interesting. And yeah, Wikidata is great that we have that, but it's not the only way of enriching your data. Do we have some other questions left?
There was
Otherwise, we
one
can very
about,
yeah.
sorry, about if there is a word limit for the content pages.
I'm afraid there is no limit. Or I'm not afraid. I think there is no limit. So it's here. We have some questions prepared. As always with the webinars, we try to answer these questions during the webinar. So that's just the questions that were raised beforehand. We hopefully were able to answer most of them. You can also find them in the PDF that we shared. So I guess most of them, there are some more specific ones which are not to be answered very easily, like how can I optimize information extraction in the context of Transkribus Sites. That would be a little bit exhaustive to explain everything. So you might want to have a look at our webinars where we really focus on the first, basically step of this chain. We really work with the historical sources, you prepare everything, and then in the next step, Transkribus Sites is really mainly meant for making those sources available. But working with them and improving them, that's done in Transkribus directly. Okay. Yeah, there's also some questions that have been answered with some links. And to be at just 1 minute late, usually we overrun a little bit more. Let's keep it at this today. It was great to have you here. We hope that we could give you a good overview of Transkribus Sites, and we hope that you can keep unlocking the past with Transkribus Sites. You can really do so as you can share it with others as well. So thanks a lot, and have a nice evening or morning or night, depending on where you are.